We're moving on to another tier here. This one has no swear words in it. This is the Glory Days Passed You By ? We got two quarterbacks in this tier, starting at number 22 with
Derek Carr, the New Orleans Saints, right? Derek Carr, and as I've told you here, we're going to get on two guys where I think, their history and maybe what they were 4 or 5 years ago plays into your mind a little bit here. But you got to take in, again, I don't ever want to just take in last year, but I think the last 2 to 3 years are probably the ones that, jump out to you the most, or in this type of exercise, certainly, right? And what I would get in with Derek Carr is still a high-level thrower of the football. He is. Great accuracy, great control of the football, always. Really quick, efficient release, can get it out of his hand quick, right? As quick as anyone. And he's got pretty good feel in the pocket as far as where to move and where to go. But within that, right, he's not very tough in the pocket. And he is going to be quick to, wait, I'm about to get hit, and yeah, there might be a 20-yard completion to be had, but I'd rather not get hit, and let me just check it down, and we'll get a 4-yard completion, right? Way too quick to do that. Way too quick to take the short completion altogether. There's no doubt. There's too much of, I drop back, I see zone, let me just get it to the back and do that. And I go, man, this guy's about to be open. You played too much football. You know this coverage. You know this play. You know this guy might come open right here. Why are you already throwing the ball underneath to Alvin Kamara, right? So that's where I think he can bother you or leave meat on the bone in that department. And a lot of it has to come to do with that, right? And, yeah, not only are plays left on the field and maybe big throws are left down the field when there's pressure around him or the pocket's collapsing where he doesn't throw the ball accurately, maybe because he just doesn't stand in there quite the way he should to let it rip or do that. But let alone, early in games can be way too conservative, like you heard me say before the pod a little bit, to where, yeah, they have games where they're down and the stats end up being pretty good, but you go, damn, well, if you played the way you did when you were down by 20 early on in the game, you would have never been down by 20. You guys would have been winning, and, you still would have had good stats, and you would have won the football game. And I think that's what frustrates you about Derek Carr as the quarterback in New Orleans Saints.
The narrative with him is that he is so mid, which is what the kids say, which is like average, that even Saints fans don't like him because Week 13 versus my Detroit Lions, he started 0 for 3, had a bad interception. The Lions built that 21-0 lead in just 8 minutes, and the Saints opened their third drive when Taysom Hill came in, ran for 7 yards, and then Carr came back in. The fans booed him. The fans booed their own starting quarterback after that bad start, a game where the Saints almost came back and won that game against my Detroit Lions because he played much better after that initial
right.
first 8 minutes.
There's a lot of that, right? I talked about, way too quick to get the short completions, check it down, the lack of aggressiveness, all of that, right? There's too many plays where, right, there's like he predetermines before it and doesn't let the play out and just goes, oh, well, I know this play's not great against this coverage, so I'm just going to throw the check down. You don't know. As you know, playing quarterback growing up or whatever, don't give these guys on the other side of the ball too much credit.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they all do their job perfectly, right? There's that aspect, right?
We didn't have many checkdowns in our wing T offense.
Lack
in
of
high school,
big-time plays off schedule. I don't think you see a ton of that. And I think he has more to offer there because I think he's a better athlete than what he puts on the football field sometimes. Yeah. He can play a little too much within the pocket that way and do that. He's got to let it go a little bit. Be a little bit more of a gunslinger, right? I think that's the big the big thing with him. And misses, like I said, too many easy throws under pressure. That's the big thing. Whether it's the pressure of the game or, hey, the pocket's collapsing and you got to hang in there and take a hit and throw this ball in the right spot, there's too many there, right? And, he has too much talent. They have too much talent.
Yeah.
And they leave a lot of plays and yards on the field in every game.
As opposed to Daniel Jones, who maybe thrives on that contact, puts himself in harm's way. Derek Carr does not do that.
I know.
And he has actually stayed healthy with that. So it's like it's a double-edged sword, right? It's just like we'd like to see a little bit more of that, maybe take some more chances, but he also has stayed healthy, played all 17 games last year. There will be a little bit different offense this year in New Orleans, which will be interesting to see. Clint Kubiak is coming in as the new OC. Pete Carmichael was there last year, had been with the team for 18 years. So he's gone. A senior offensive staff member is also gone. Wide receiver coach is gone. So they overhauled the coaching staff on the offensive side in New Orleans. And apparently, from what Derek Carr said in a recent interview, it's going to be more play action for him. He goes, play action is 10 out of 10 for me. I have always loved it. I've always been a fan, so they're going to incorporate that more this season. So we'll see if it's a different offense. And I do like the weapons that they have. We were talking a little bit about it before we started here with A.T. Perry will be kind of an intriguing red zone target. I've liked Chris Olave. I know you still have some questions on him.
Yeah, but he's still good and dangerous.
Rashid Shaheed.
I love Rashid Shaheed, right.
So, I mean, and they got Tali Fuanga to help try to shore up that offensive line. So I think he might be in a better position to succeed this year than he was even last year.
Maybe. I think so. I think their approach on offense needs to be different and should be different. I think last year they were a little into like, oh, we're gonna be surgical and dice you up with Derek Carr in every game, and I don't think that kind of player right now that's gonna just carry your team right week in and week out and win you games that way. No, I think this is going to be more appropriate for him and what they are. And Clint Kubiak, again, first off, he's Kubiak, okay? Yeah. He believes in the Shanahan way of football. I mean, his dad grew up playing for Mike Shanahan, let alone being an assistant coach for him. Gary Kubiak's offensive system was run the ball, play action. And then where the did Kubiak come from last year? The master of play action and Kyle Shanahan on the 49ers. So, yeah, that's what they're going to do. And I think it's the right thing to do, too, with a quarterback that, has not shown the ability, like we said, to carry the team, throw lasers around the football field, extend plays, backyard football. Hey, no problem, guys. I got this. Do this. No, I think it's got to be a little bit like, hey, you got to make him feel comfortable. Got to give him some easy completions every game. Got to run the ball. He's not the kind of guy that wants to sit there and take a beating dropping back 42 times a game. And I think that's where, it'll fit him and their team better this year.
There's not a whole lot behind him on the depth chart there in New Orleans. They got Jake Haener, who was a 4th-round pick last year from Fresno State. They got Spencer Rattler, who was a 5th-round pick this past year.
That's where it's like he's very safe and not in a threatened spot.
Yeah.
That's what I would say, right? Where I last year there was more of a threat. Jameis came in, and Jameis would come in, and he's the opposite of Derek Carr, right? He's like, I don't even know what the check down is. What? An underneath throw?
Yeah, we don't do that.
That's what we talked about, when we did Jameis, is one of the reasons he is where he is, right? It's just because you don't trust him. And it's just like, oh, my gosh, is he just going to throw every ball 40 yards down the football field, right? But, Derek Carr could use a little bit of that in his mindset to a degree. But, yes, that it's a shit or get off the pot year for Derek Carr. But he might have a little bit more of a longer leash than some of these guys we've talked about because of the backups you're alluding to here.
Yeah, and in glory days, have they passed you by? I mean, Derek never really had the glory, the top, but I do think he was underrated there for a while, just because he was never that first round. He wasn't a first-round quarterback.
No, he was top of the second.
First pick of the second round. And so I don't think he ever got the credit he deserved when he was good, and maybe that's still kind of affecting our perception on him.
I think there's that. Right. I think you're right. Like, he was better than he gets credit for, but yet it's still also amazing that he's been a starting quarterback for as long as he has when you look at his resume and gone, he's played as many playoff games as Chris Simms has.
Yeah.
Right. And that was one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, that's where, hey, Derek Carr and what we talked about with some of these other guys too, leadership, people believing in him, his effect on the football team. I can't sit here and say that that's like a huge attribute for Derek Carr at this point in his career. Right. And we'll see where this goes, but certainly a big year for him.
I never would have thought you would use yourself as a slam on Derek Carr here on the playoff games.
I think it's one of those where Derek Carr, I think, is very much the reputation of kind of how we're explaining right here. I think there's a lot of people in football that go, hey, he's pretty good. He's done a good job in his career. He's done some positive things. And then I think there's another part of football that's like, how is he still a quarterback, starting quarterback?
Sure.
I mean, how many years are we going to just miss in the playoffs or talk about, oh, he could have made this throw or he was a little too conservative? So, yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a love-hate relationship with Derek Carr in the NFL.
He is below 500, 15 games below 500 as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Some of that was because he was on some really bad rated teams, and the best team they had there, he was hurt in the playoffs. He got hurt late in the year.
Bad. That's right.
But that is Derek Carr. That sums him up well.
Yo, what's up? Thanks for watching, homies. You know it's the off season, but there's no off season with Chris Simms Unbuttoned. It's the NFL. It goes all year around. All right, so hit subscribe, please, to hear my thoughts on your favorite team, your favorite quarterback, and hey, how this season might unfold as we get ready for the 2024 season. We got a better picture, clearer look now that the draft is over, free agency. We know who's playing quarterback for certain teams. So, again, thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe. Peace out, homies. Check you out soon.